So I had extra clothesline to use up, and I decided, since I did not need another clothesline, I'm going to go ahead and make baskets with them. I had a leftover piece from my macrame project, and this is the basket that I made with that one. For this color is I wrapped fabric intermittently throughout the basket. The color that I used for this is actually just a variegated thread, and that's it. The clothesline is the same white color as regular clothesline. I just used a variegated thread to get all that color. I had one more package of the clothesline to use, and this is the last basket that I made. Decided I wanted to do something with handles. I wanted to use this one to keep our games in. One thing that I did differently with this basket, I wanted to finish the edge with some color that I used in the basket, and so I switched my thread towards the end and went around a couple times on the edge. I'll go ahead and get started now, and I'll show you how I did this. So before even starting with sewing, I unwrapped the excuse me, I unwrapped the cord and rolled it into a ball, just because I don't like to deal with knotting and tangles and having to fix all that while I'm sewing. And then what I'm doing now is just throwing it into a bowl, and I'm going to put it right on the floor right where I'm working, and that just keeps it from rolling all over and getting dirty. I just got that on the floor below where I'm working. So I apologize. There was a glitch in the recording, so I'm going to have to just kind of demonstrate without actually doing it because I've already done it. But I started out just coiling very tightly the cord in on itself. And just to keep it together, you stick a pin right in towards the center. And that holds it together. One pin just does it for me. I don't need anything else. And I usually like to kind of I like to kind of be able to see the pin, so I'll take the end and poke it out so I know exactly where it's at. And you can see right there I got the pin poking out right there. So this just kind of tells me where that pin is. That way I can be really careful with the stitching as I'm getting close to it. I have my machine set at a zigzag stitch, 5 millimeters wide, and at 3.0 on the stitch length, and that works pretty well. The biggest thing about this is when you're coiling your basket here, and as you're sewing it, you want to feed the coil from the right side like I have it here. I don't want to feed it from the left side, because if I do, the basket's going to get too big and bulky, and the neck of the machine will be in the way. You won't be able to make it very big. So make sure that you're feeding the coil from the right side. That way the basket can grow up this way and around the machine right here. So starting in the center, you get your, I'm just going to go ahead and do it like I haven't done it. You're just going to be very careful as you go around the pin, and right now I'm going to feed it by hand, so I'm not making sure I'm not hitting that. And just going to coil, and right now I'm just sewing where I've already coiled, but I'm keeping this all very flat. When I need to rotate, and I just lift my foot a little bit, keeping the needle in the down position, and sew. And I'm just sewing around in a circle, making sure that all the edges of the coil are getting sewn in. And there we go. And again, when you see yourself getting really close to that pin, just hand feed it, because you do not want to break your needle or mess up your machine, because you can do that. So going very, very slowly, hand feeding it around that pin. There we go. Cleared that. Now we can go lifting it up, rotating it. And I kind of have the center of my foot right over where the cords join. So I know I'm getting both sides of the cords, making a nice tight coil, keeping it sewn together. Here I am pivoting again. Now you can see that while I'm sewing that inner coil, I'm actually wrapping around my piece and it's not getting sewn in. And in just a minute here, I'll show you how I'll uncoil that, because those will definitely have to get sewn in. And I'm using just a regular polyester all-purpose thread. It's I think if you used cotton, it might be a little bit it doesn't have the great flexibility that the polyester blend has, and so it could break a little more easily. Okay, so right there I got the pin, and I felt it actually, so I had to kind of move that out of the way. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the pin out now, because we've got a good base to this. Okay, so I'm going to put my needle down. I've got the base done really well. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to pull on this to uncoil the part that's not even sewn into that. Okay. And so basically, now I'm going to go ahead and start making the basket. I got that base coil all sewn up very tightly. And all I do is I aim my foot, the center of my foot, right down the center where the two cords butt up against each other. And so it's sewing on both sides, making it nice and tight. And I'm going to start coiling this. And especially when you first start, you have to, lift up the foot to rotate it or pivot around. But once it gets bigger, you won't have to do that. And so I just kind of keep my hand back there while I'm doing this, because I do it so often. And with this bowl, because it's going to be a bread proofing bowl, I want the sides to be a little more on the gradual incline versus really real steep. So, so I won't be tilting it quite so tightly, and I'll show you that when we get to that point. Okay, right now I have about a 4-inch base going on, and I want to have a little bit more of a gradual curve, so I'm just going to pick it up a little bit, and so I'll hold it the same angle though, because we don't want that to change. I'm going to keep that the same angle all the way around, and you'll see this will just naturally start making the bowl curve. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this up so you don't have to watch it in real time. Now, if you can't see what's going on as far as how I'm holding this, the coil is feeding here from the right-hand side of the basket. Back here by my thumb, I have the cord feeding in there, and it's riding on the top of my thumb. Lay your fingers right on top. I'm using my ring finger again just to hold it up tight against the basket, and that way I can get a pretty good speed. So again, I'm going to go ahead and speed this up so you don't have to watch it in real time. So one thing I forgot to mention is that you will run out of bobbin. bobbin will not do a whole basket, so make sure that you have some extra bobbins wound up so that you can keep on going with your project. We'll start back a little ways back over where we already stitched. Do some back stitch and keep going. Well, you can see the bowl is getting bigger and it's actually curling around quite nicely around the machine, and that is exactly why we feed from the right side. So I'll keep going and we'll come back and look at it when it's done. I'm going to go ahead and cut this at an angle, and that'll kind of help fade out that edge. And as I'm sewing it, I'm just going to push that in really tight. Go ahead and use this scissors just to hold it in there really tight. Being very careful to keep the scissors out of the way of the needle. And I'm going to go all the way back around again. I'm approaching the end, and you can see there's a bit of fray there, so I'm going to be sewing over that a few times just to keep that all pulled in. I'm going to go ahead and go backwards. Really no need for me to go all the way around again. Pretty well got the fray in, so I'll just go over it one more time. Trim my threads. So there's the completed basket, and I'm not really sure this is exactly the shape that I was hoping for. I think I might try it again. But one of the things you want to check for when you've completed your basket is go through it and see if you see any gaps where you might have missed joining it together. And if you find a gap, just slide it back under there, and you can just get it right back in there, and you can sew up any gaps that you might have. And I'm good on this one. I don't have any gaps, so it's all good to go. And if I don't use this for a bread proofing bowl, I'll use it for something. So anyway, have fun with it. So I did start another bowl. I wanted it to have a little bit larger base to it. I went with a 6-inch base to start this one. Something I wanted to show is if you come to an end of a rope and you want to keep adding more on, how we go about doing that. I'm just going to go ahead and butt the ends together, and before I do that though, I'm going to actually start sewing on the existing bowl back about an inch or so. And then I get it pretty close to the end, and I'm going to then just stick this underneath there, because that foot's going to actually help keep those two tight together right against there. And then go ahead and lower the foot down. And then I'm just going to go ahead and use my little trimming scissors just to kind of push that up there, just to keep it tight until I get it anchored on, and then continue sewing. Now I am going to go ahead and go back over that joint area just to be add an insurance that it's going to stay, and then continue on around like normal. So right now I'm approaching where I joined the two together. Push that up against there. And there's my bowl. And I got a 6-inch base to it. So I did 3.5-inch sides on there. This is where we joined the two pieces together, so you can see a little bit more thread right in there. And then here's where we faded out on the edge at there. As you can see, my bowl is the perfect size for being a proofing bowl. The dough has risen up really nicely, and all I need to do is turn it out onto my pan and give it a bake.